I'm going to play today. I'm in a playful mood because tomorrow is Thanksgiving. This, had I been working, would have been a vacation week for me, one of them. What I want to do is I want to make New England style hot dog buns. Now, if you've lived in New England or you still live there, you live there now, you know what I'm talking about. Out here in California, and I think most of the USA, the hot dog buns are these kind of rounded torpedo buns. Think of a submarine sandwich roll, a big roll, but small. And then they're cut into the side. That's where you put the hot dog in. New England hot dog buns are like upright. They're more upright. The best way I can explain it is by using the picture of my dinner rolls. Notice how they're baked up against each other so that they're white on the side. Imagine in this picture, rather than individual rolls, imagine each row is a long roll that extends the full width of the pan. And then the rolls are cut in the top, so the hot dog is put down through the top, and then you put your condiments on top. What we liked about those buns is we would butter the sides, and then we would toast them, either in a skillet or on the grill, and it added more flavor to it. You didn't have to tear it apart like you do with the rounded rolls. To get it toasted, you have to open it completely. Sometimes the two pieces separate, and then you can toast them. I like the New England style hot dog buns. I'm going to actually do a double batch today, but the ingredients I'm going to give you will be for a single batch because I want to make two different sizes of hot dog rolls. This is the playing part. I want to make really long ones because I have really long hot dogs. They're not really hot dogs. They're smoked sausages, but they're like a really big hot dog. I want to make rolls long enough for these things. Cut in half, one of these would fit two standard hot dog buns. And I want to make standard hot dog buns, and later I'll freeze those, and later on I'll buy hot dogs, and then I'll be able to eat those in my homemade hot dog buns. So I have to explain the pans next, so bear with me. This is what I'm going to use for my long hot dog buns. It's a standard 9 by 13, I think it is. What is that? 23 by 33 centimeters. And I'm going to make my buns this way. I think I can get 7, maybe 8 in this pan. The width of this pan should be long enough to accommodate, the bun should accommodate that big long hot dog. The other thing that I'm going to use is a New England style hot dog bun pan. And this to me is all wrong. The idea is you put your dough in and then let it rise. You put a baking sheet on top, and then you weigh it down with something heavy, like a cast iron skillet. And the bottom, these rounded depressions, are supposed to be the top of the buns. I've seen pictures of them. They don't look right at all. And if you look at the picture here, this is what they should look like. This is browned on top because this was the top. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this pan because it's the right size to get, I think that'll do 10, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. I'm going to put some aluminum foil in the bottom so that the bottom will be flat, but I'm going to put my individual rolls in so that they can rise up and bake, and the top will be browned, and I can slit them, separate them, and use them for my hot dogs. I'm going to start my yeast in my bowl of my stand mixer. So again, everything here is doubled because I'm making two batches, but I'm going to give you the amounts for a single batch. 1/2 cup, about 120 milliliters of water, slightly warm, somewhere around 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius, and then 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast. And then I'm going to put a pinch of sugar in there just to give that yeast something to get started with. I'll give that a stir. And I'll let this sit for a few minutes just to get that yeast activated. If your yeast is healthy, after about 3 or 4 minutes, 5 minutes or so, it'll start foaming. My yeast is foaming nicely in there. I'm going to add 3/4 of a cup, 175 milliliters of whole milk. This, again, has been warmed to about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 Celsius. And then I'm going to add half of my flour. So I'm going to use 4 cups or 567 grams of all-purpose flour. You can use bread flour. This happens to be half the flour that I've set aside. I'm going to put that in there. And then 3 tablespoons of powdered milk, dry milk. 2 tablespoons of sugar and 2 large eggs. Again, you see 4 here because everything is doubled. And then I'm going to stir this all together to form a batter. So there's my batter in my stand mixer, which now has the dough hook attached. And I have the rest of my flour in my container here. I'm going to start adding this flour a little at a time until a dough starts to form. I may not use all my flour. I may have to use it all, plus a little bit of liquid to get the dough the way I want it. I like to see the dough pulling away from the sides of the bowl, but sticking in the bottom. That to me tells me the dough is the right consistency for the texture of the bread, or in this case, the buns that I want. And then I have my remaining salt. I shouldn't say remaining salt. I have my salt here, which is 1.5 teaspoons of salt. So I'm starting up my mixer. There's my dough in the bowl. It's all come together. But I used all the flour. I'm not quite seeing the sticking that I want to see in the bottom of the bowl, but it is pulling away from the sides. I have the butter to add, and that's probably going to give me the texture that I want. When you start adding butter to dough, I mean, this has got water in it and milk. This is a fat. The two don't mix. The dough will break up, but you just keep kneading it, and the dough will come back together again. So I'm just going to put a good dollop of my butter. What I have here is 3 tablespoons, or about 85 grams of butter, and this is at room temperature. I'm going to put that in there, work that in, do another third, and then another third, and keep working with it until it all comes back together again into a nice dough. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to show you this, but I'm going to try. It's pulling away from the sides of the bowl now, and it is sticking in the bottom. That's because the butter here in the USA is 80% butter fat. The other 20% is water, which added more moisture, and milk solids. So I'm going to see if I can show you this pulling away. That's what it looks like in there. I don't know how well you could see that, but it is sticking in the bottom. If anything, it might be sticking a little too much, but I'd rather have my dough be a little bit too moist than too dry. All right, I'm going to knead this now in the bowl with the dough hook for 6 to 8 minutes. So my kneading is done here. Now, I'm happy with this dough. If you want to know about one of my obsessions, I actually calculate my ratio when I'm baking now. Come on, there we go, of wet to dry. And I look for about a 60 to 65% wet to dry. So in other words, if I use 500 grams of flour, I'm going to use 350 grams of water or any combination for a liquid. I consider butter to be a neutral. So I'm going to take my dough out. I want to show you how sticky this dough is. It's a little bit sticky, but that's okay. This is the dough that's stuck to the bottom of the bowl. I'm going to wash this bowl out and use it for rising, but if I work this dough quickly, you can see how it's not sticking to the counter. It's not sticking to my hands. My hands are clean, but if I grip it and pull away slowly, you can see how it's sticking to my fingers. That's the texture that I like to see. Dry enough that I can knead it quickly without it sticking, but I know that it's still sticky. Okay, I'm going to set this aside. As I said, I'm going to wash my bowl and use this for the rising. I've buttered this bowl after I've cleaned it, And I'm going to put my dough in there. And I'm going to butter the top. This is the plastic bag I used for buttering the bowl. Because I've got a lot of dough here, and this is going to rise way up. I want this to double in bulk. I'm going to cover this loosely with plastic wrap. Allow some room for expansion. And as I said, it's going to rise up and come up against the plastic. That buttered dough on top will make the plastic release more easily. To let this double in bulk is going to take about an hour. If your kitchen is cold, it could take 2 hours. Best place I like to put my bowl is on top of my computer. It's warm there and it rises very successfully. I was sitting at my computer doing a crossword puzzle, and this is what I saw. It rose up very quickly. It's very warm in my house today. It's up around 90 degrees. We're having a little heat wave here in California. I'm going to punch this down, separate this into two, and then fill my 2 pans with the dough. All right. I'm going to get this punched down. Okay, and then divide that into 2. Okay, I'm going to use a little plastic bench scraper here. That'll work. Okay, put this back in the bowl and cover it with the plastic like so, and then start working with this. All right, so here's half my dough. For my big pan, I'm thinking I'm going to get 8. So that should be pretty easy. Divide this in half. And then each of these in half. And in half again. If you want them to be exact, you can use a digital scale to weigh each of your pieces. I actually like a little bit of variation. I think it makes things look more homemade. Like that's going to be a big roll right there. Okay. I'm going to roll each of these into a long roll as even as possible. It's not going to be the smoothest. I'm pinching these up after pressing them flat because I'm trying to get as smooth a top as possible. There's my first pan of rolls. I can adjust a few of these a little bit. I've got the room in there. I'm going to cover this with plastic, and I'm going to let this rise for 45 minutes. For my second pan, I'm going to divide this into 10. So let's see. As best I can estimate. All right, and the same thing, I want to shape these into shorter rolls. That looks okay. Some of these might be a little bit oddly shaped, but that'll be all right. So you get the idea. You see what I'm doing. I want to make 10 of these to fit in there. There's my second pan of hot dog buns. I'm going to cover this with plastic and again let this rise about 45 minutes. Check it out. There they are after rising for 45 minutes. These are definitely going to look homemade. Look at how crazy they are. They're not going to look like they were made in a factory. Optional. You can brush them with an an egg wash. This is 1 whole egg and about a tablespoon of milk. Gonna get that off. And then just brush them lightly with the egg wash. It'll give it a bit of a shine on top, which I think looks good. In the meantime, I have been heating my oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, which is what, 190 degrees Celsius. The instructions say to bake these 18 to 20 minutes. I'm going to go a little bit longer because I have 2 pans. So I'm going to bake these 20 to 25 minutes. I'll keep an eye on them. I want you to see my other pan here. You might see something a little bit crazy over there. I had to stitch it together with a fork because it started to open up. I didn't pinch the dough together well enough. These are going to look crazy because the sizes are so different. But I don't care. You know, if I were bringing these to a picnic, a barbecue, people would see these and they would say, "Dennis, did you make your own hot dog buns?" Yes. I believe they would go very quickly. And as a friend of mine likes to say, there's nothing more rewarding or satisfying when you go to a potluck than to bring home an empty plate. Here are, out of the oven, my first set. They look nice. I mean, they look homemade, definitely, but they look nice. And these are the longer ones. Same thing. They look homemade, but they look good. These were in the oven, by the way, for 25 minutes. I used a digital thermometer to check the internal temperature. I want to see it up around, as I mentioned, 200 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 95 degrees Celsius. I managed to flip these out onto a cooling rack. I'm going to let these cool down thoroughly, and then I can start frying a hot dog and trying it in one of these buns. And I think I'm going to choose that one there because that's the nicest looking one. All right, let's see what I've got here. These have had a chance to cool. I want to separate between these two like that. Yes. Okay. And you could, if you wanted to, might be a little bit cleaner, cut it apart. But I think I'm just going to continue to work that way. Just like so. Perfect. Now, what we used to do is we would toast the sides of these, cover it with butter, put it in a skillet, and toast it in the same pan, the same skillet as the hot dog is frying in. You can steam the hot dog, you can cook it in a little bit of boiling water. We would always fry the hot dog in some butter. So that's what I'm going to do. So there it's the bun, toasted in the skillet on both sides. And then how you serve these, this is hot. You cut down the center. I'm going to have to hold that with something. It's just so hot. This is fresh out of the pan. Spread that open a little bit. Here's my huge long hot dog. There is a hot dog on a bun. What do you think? Now, I like to eat hot dogs this way. I don't need a lot of condiments on top, relish, mustard, but you can put ketchup, relish, mustard, sauerkraut, chili. You can make a chili dog. You can serve these any which way you like. This is the way that I like them best. The last step is to see how good this tastes. Okay, I'm ready to sit down and enjoy my hot dog in a New England style hot dog bun. It's hot in here. I just want to relax. Here it is, day before Thanksgiving. This is toward the end of November. It's 94 degrees outside. I don't mean to brag, but this is the reason why I moved to Southern California. Oh, that's a nice flavor. That's it. That's a nice flavor. All right. Excuse me, I'm going to go enjoy a late lunch of a hot dog on a New England style hot dog bun. To view the recipe and download a PDF version with step-by-step photographs, click the Jump to Recipe icon in the lower right corner or visit my website, mobilehomegourmet.com.